podcast. 1 hour of all things red and gold. Return of the Empire. Here are your hosts, Sacktown Sports 49ers insider Emil Fragoso and Nate Littlefield.
When you hear the music, you know what time it is. It's Return of the Empire. We are back, baby. A week hiatus was good for us. Got the rest, got the break. Just like the Niners, getting the rest this week because it's a bye week, the first round of the playoffs. Emil Fragoso, Nate Littlefield, Kyle Ledbetter on the ones and twos. We are back and happy to be here on a Wednesday night, 7 to 8, or 6:46, I should say, to 7:45 about there. Coming off a great Kings win, but Nate, we got to talk Niners. How are you feeling going into the postseason?
Well, I mean, yeah, we got to talk Niners. It'd be crazy not to.
I know.
First of all, I'd like to welcome in all the Sacramento Kings fans that are sticking around for
Hi,
the
guys!
post game. I know you're probably not used to this, and we got some 49ers talk for you, a little different. Hopefully you stick around for it. We'll see what happens.
It's really good. You should.
It's a fun time. We really just
silly.
go about
Check
it.
us out on YouTube. We got a silly YouTube show.
Come look at our
we got a
stupid
great
faces.
guest today coming on the show too. I'm gonna hold on to that for a little bit. We got I guess we could say now, right? We got Brad from SF Niners on all
Whoop, whoop!
social media platforms. Super excited to get him on.
Excellent content creator out there in the webs, and just really, first of all, great job by Nate to get this guest. Nate surprised me this week
Thanks.
and let me know we were going to have a guest this week, and I really appreciate him for that. Nate, pulling your weight right now. Appreciate you.
Just using the the station's account to DM people.
You know what, man?
So, it works sometimes.
You either use it or you lose it.
Yeah, you use it. That's
Sure,
the
I
truth.
guess
But
that works.
I don't know.
I guess so. We have a bit of an elongated show today because the Kings game ended a little early. So I didn't want to spend a ton of time recapping the game last week because I felt like it was essentially kind of pointless because the game was pointless. It's
was a
almost like
preseason
having
game.
the 2 bye weeks, right?
It was literally like going week 3 of the preseason this year into the week 4, which is a bye week now. There's no longer a 4th preseason game.
Yeah.
That's how this felt.
Which I love. There's no
Yeah.
more. I just don't love the 17th game. But that's a different conversation. What I want to get into is last week I was like on these airwaves practically guaranteeing Trent Williams wouldn't play.
I told you he would.
And he played a series.
He did.
I believe. So
He played.
I did not think he was going to play at all. I didn't love that he played, but the broadcast, you had Mark Schlereth, friend of the station too, used to come on Cattles and Rami all the time in the afternoon. He was talking about how important it is to keep that offensive rhythm. Because I think you saw more offensive starters play, and that might be more of an injury thing. Like George Kittle was active, did not suit up at all. And then at halftime, you saw Debo and Ayuk sitting on the sideline after they played.
Interesting story on that. So Kittle and Greenlaw were both supposed to play in this game. And then as soon as they come out, they do warm-ups, and everyone's warming up, including Kittle and Greenlaw. Well, as soon as the players come out of the tunnel in pads and stuff, Kittle and Greenlaw are in hoodies. And so we're like, oh, well, I guess they're not playing today. Come to find out after the game, Kittle had some back spasms. Greenlaw had some I believe some tendonitis, I believe is what the official diagnosis was. Minor nicks and bruises that kind of come with the season. It was just kind of a minor. Here's an injury to report because we didn't actually rule him out. Here's something of like probably they already had. So no cause for concern. They'll be fine moving forward. But interesting to see the Niners play most of their starters on offense, especially for most of the first half, and then pull them, even though Brock Purdy did not play the whole game.
Well, I guess that goes to Schlereth's point then. That sounds like some sort of philosopher. Schlereth's point.
Schlereth's stick.
Anyways, how important it is to keep that offensive rhythm because they did get a run. Like Debo played a significant amount, and I think that played in heavily to Sam Darnold's to his play in the second half. It was very mediocre. Yeah. And this is it's kind of being a hypocrite here, but argue all year, like, is Brock Purdy this good without the weapons, all this stuff, whatever. But then you saw Darnold play well.
He did.
And then you take away his weapons and a lot of drop balls. Like Chris Conley looked horrible.
He had a couple moments, but he
had his first catch of the season. He had 2 catches, right? He had
3.
Yeah, I didn't dive too deeply into the stats because, like I said, I didn't know we'd be spending this much time on this game, because I didn't realize the show would be longer today, but
we got time.
We got time. And
Talk
you're
about
stuck with us.
I know.
I'm happy. I love our starters. I love our starters, to put it simply. It was great to see Ronnie Bell get another TD from Sam Darnold, his third touchdown of the year, second from Darnold.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice. I really like seeing him kind of develop under this star-studded team. I'm super excited to see Ronnie Bell in the future. I mean, I really don't have a lot to say about the offense besides the drops. Darnold had either has really, really good throws or really, really bad throws.
There's no in between with Darnold.
No, he needs to get into a rhythm, and that's not going to happen on the Niners team. He was trying out for other teams this year. He's probably, signed a 1-year deal.
I could see him getting a compete for the starter position next year.
So we just had a huge coaching carousel firing. The Black Monday happened, came and went, kind of extended into today, honestly, and who knows where it's going to go in the coming days. But the big one was Pete Carroll being out, and we still don't know the full story on that. If he's moving into the front office like Brad Stevens did with the Celtics,
he is supposed to. That's what the team in their statement from their owner put out there, that he is going to move into a advisor role. But when you hear Pete's comments saying, I kind of still have some stuff left in me. Yes, I'm the oldest at this position in terms of coaching. I'm, my 70s now. Yeah. But I still kind of want to coach. And it's like, okay, so what's the path forward?
So it's interesting because I think it's really easy to forget he's the oldest coach was the oldest coach in the NFL, 72 or 73. Mm-hmm. You see those videos like in the off season, saw him riding a scooter around, and not an old folks scooter. It was a cool young kid scooter in the locker room, and he's always screaming and chewing that gum loud. Don't get me wrong, I hate the guy and I hate the Seahawks to death, but it is weird. He kind of
you respect him
right
though.
Now. No, I don't like him or respect him.
You totally jumped the gun on that, Emil.
I don't like him or respect him, but here's what I'm trying to say.
That was great.
Here's what I'm trying to say. That you threw me for a loop here. It seemed as though right now at this moment to me that he's kind of being pushed out or pushed into a different role.
Yeah.
Like Seattle wanted to move on from him, but he didn't. Maybe he moves into that GM role. I don't know because he's probably not going to like that. Whatever role they're putting him into the office, he seems like a guy who wants to be on the front lines. And in the past, week, I believe he had his post-game press conference where it's like, as of right now, I have no reason to believe I'm not going to be continuing to coach this team. I'm kind of being not verbatim.
You're paraphrasing.
They're paraphrasing exactly. Thank you, Mr. Journalist. My vocabulary is subpar.
Hey, I'm just galvanizing. As
he did say today, like he fought to keep the job, which I don't know exactly what that means. It was weird. It was weird Pete Carroll lexicon that he was using, but it was.
If there's disarray in Seattle, I'm here for it.
Let me break this down for you. This is how this went. Pete, we love you.
Stinky Pete.
We appreciate everything you've done for this organization. We're going to have to let you go. We're going to move in a different direction. No. What do you mean? No, I'm not leaving. But we're going this direction. No, I'm not leaving. And that went back and forth for like 5 minutes.
That's what you believe happened.
And then Pete slowly went from the shock of they're letting me go to the realization of like, okay, I kind of have to accept this. Is there another role for me?
Yeah.
That's how I think is what happened.
Yeah. And I think that's fair. I think this is what people have been talking about with Bill Belichick all year long. Mm-hmm. This is, I think, what's happening right now with the Seahawks is what a lot of people thought was going to happen to Belichick in New England.
But Belichick's already the GM, though.
I know. So
in fairness, in Pete Carroll's original contract, because him and Schneider got hired at the same time, Pete had ultimate say on final roster decisions. Now that kind of evolved as the years went along, but originally Pete was if push comes to shove, I get final say on roster choices.
I'm here for that too. Mm-hmm. I don't think the Niners are set up like that, but I don't think that it's in writing for that for Shanahan. I don't know that for a fact.
It's more so in writing for Lynch.
But I think Shanahan should get the final say on who should be on the field for his team, right? Because it would make sense for the coach who's coaching the players. That would make sense to me.
For the most part, they should kind of have either final say or like have a portion of the say of like, no, this guy is going to work. This guy's not going to work.
A portion is way different than the final say, though. Like a portion, I think every head coach is getting a portion to say who's on the field when it comes down to roster cuts.
GM, Vrabel didn't get that.
Good point. The GM is there to make the decision for when the coach can't. Kind of similar to right now with Mike Dunleavy and Steve Kerr in Golden State, where definitely Steve has final say, and Mike's kind of like, I got to improve this team. But Steve's like, I don't know what to do with that.
They also have that role too of scouting, like all throughout all these bowl games. And speaking of we're gonna get more into Jim Harbaugh later, but shout out to Michigan and Harbaugh.
Yes.
I was happy to see him do it.
Go Blue.
It was nice. I wish he could have won a championship with the red and gold instead of the blue and gold or blue and yellow. What are they?
Blue and maize.
Blue and maize. Blue and corn.
Good work.
Kyle,
man, he knows all the terms of yellow.
I trailed off here, but I just think I'm happy to see Pete Carroll go. But that's all I have to say. I hate the Seahawks so much. I hate him so much.
But I got this question.
I still hate them.
Hey, here's the thing. Because we're similar ages, you and me.
Yeah.
You've known the Seahawks with Pete Carroll for pretty much your whole life.
Yeah. I mean, my whole football watching life, yes.
Does Pete Carroll leaving kind of signal an end of an era for you in the rivalry?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
The last thing holding on to that is their ugly jerseys and Bobby Wagner. So who beat out Dre Greenlaw in
you're still mad about, but I explained to you why.
Yeah, no, and that's fine. Whatever. Anyways, I think I'm always gonna hate the Seahawks. I think this is similar to maybe the previous generation Niners fans who are still Niners fans, but a little older than me, who hate the Cowboys to death. And don't get me wrong, hate the Cowboys. Don't like the Cowboys. Always in the media. They're so annoying, all that stuff. But if you were a Niners fan in the 90s, in the 80s to now, I've spoken to a lot to kind of understand, because I have a lot of my family. I've been around a lot to understand that like scarred hatred that's still in there. And for me, that's always going to be there for the Seahawks. Maybe in 30 years, there's going to be no chemistry between the two. Maybe there'll be a reseeding where they're not even in the same division. Maybe the Seahawks end up in the AFC or something in like 20 or something crazy.
Sure.
I am still going to hate the Seahawks.
No, look, your Seahawks Niners hatred is same as my Raiders Chiefs hatred.
No, it's not, dude. I hate the Seahawks so much more.
Yeah,
you never talk about the
fan.
Chiefs.
Get out of here, Raider.
What do you mean?
You can't make that comparison, Emil.
I don't like
Emil.
them.
This is like
the Raiders haven't won a playoff game since you were born.
Emil,
wow,
this is rooted so much deeper. And I'm not trying to tear you down here, but this is this is my personal pain I've been through. This is like
you've had a lot of
yes, dude. Yes, you can't make that comparison. It's not fair to me.
I'm putting on the rival on terms of the divisional hatred of organizations.
You're trying to justify it here, Emil, and it's okay. But it hurt. These guys have hurt me so bad, and for an extended amount of time. And I don't think it's the same.
You weren't there for Richard Sherman, Emil. What's your Richard Sherman moment with the Raiders? Losing by 20 every year?
Frankly, it's the Broncos, and it's Aqib Talib stealing Michael Crabtree's chain.
Get out of here. I know you want to be at the table, but get out of here.
Yeah.
Nate, who's second on this list to you? Is it the Rams
that I hate?
Point? Yeah,
man, it's not the Cardinals because you can't really. They're kind of like the Chargers. You can't really.
I mean, the Rams are there. The Rams are there. They're just annoying. Like Aaron Donald, I'm not a fan, especially watching him choke his teammates and hit people with helmets in practice. And I don't like him pretending not to know who Debo is. Number two, that's a great question.
Yeah, because I know I've known you for a good year and a half now.
Yeah, almost 2 years.
The Seahawks hatred is real. Like this is not just a thing that he's selling. Like he genuinely hates the Seahawks for people listening.
I genuinely do.
But I'm curious. There's nothing else that comes close to that, and it makes sense because the Niners haven't really had that extended rivalry with anyone else because the Niners were pretty bad for the 5 years right after the Richard Sherman game.
Yeah, they were. They had 8-8 Harbaugh's last year, and then you go through the Chip Kelly and freaking the why am I blanking on his name? The D-line
Tom
coach.
Sula.
Yeah, Jim Tosula, Tom Sula. And it was awful. And then we get Shanahan right after they lose the Super Bowl. And
you have Chip Kelly.
It took a little bit. I said Chip Kelly.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah. And I don't know, going through the Kaepernick hour or the Kaepernick.
The bewitching hour with Kaepernick?
Just the Kaepernick fallout was hard. I think there's a lot of I don't know about love lost, but I'm glad there was a cutoff with Shanahan where he's like, I want my guys, and we're going to do it my way, you know. Yeah. So I love he built this team from the ground up. He's a great coach. And with that said, I have a little little segment I want to do with you today.
I like this
with
segment.
Brad, our guest today. I'm going to tease it right now before we go to break here in a minute or two. Basically, what I've done is I wrote down every player position from the 2012 Niners Super Bowl team that lost to the Ravens, obviously. I've put every position kind of depth chart. I've done that both with the 2012 team and this 2023 team to do a comparison on which is better, where, and why. I basically have just kind of taken every receiver, every tight end, every O lineman. It's kind of different because this Niners team is a 4-3 team versus the 3-4 defense in 2012. Yeah. So I've mixed middle linebackers together, just general middle linebackers, and then I put D line. So like Nick Bosa's on the D line, despite him. He's a DN.
He's a defensive lineman.
Like Aldon Smith was a outside linebacker, but they're D linemen.
Pass rushers, so what you're talking about.
Essentially, yes, exactly.
Pass rushers. Or as Chris Collinsworth says, pass rushers.
Or run stoppers, whatever you want to call those big boys down there. So I just want to go through later in the show and kind of compare the two and see, because I really think this 2023 team is the best team I've ever seen for the Niners.
Which is crazy considering that last year's team was also incredibly talented.
I mean, this team is just a better version than that in every single way. I don't think, because like you can do the comparison between this team and the 2019 team, the Super Bowl team, the 1 seed. This team is the supercharged version of that team.
Oh, yeah.
The only place where it gets kind of questionable is is on the D line with swapping Hargrave for Buckner, excuse me.
Yeah.
And then Richard Sherman. And that's kind of it on Joe Staley, but Joe Staley for Trent Williams.
I mean, that might be an upgrade, actually.
Yeah.
No, it definitely is.
Yeah. So
you get the greatest offensive tackle in the last 25 years,
which is crazy because Joe Staley might end up in the Hall of Fame at the end of his.
He should be in the Hall of Fame,
but Trent Williams is the best offensive lineman in football.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really saying something when your offensive tackle, your left tackle, is up there with guys like Anthony Munoz, Willie Roof. I mean, there are so many great tackles out there over the years, and to have a guy like Trent Williams be so consistent, not on just one team, but two teams over the course of a decade and a half now, is special.
Yeah, it's great. But so later in the show, next segment, actually, we're going to get into this. We're going to kind of compare the two. We're going to talk to Brad from SF Niners. We're going to kind of we're just going to talk Niners. We're going to do some playoff predictions. We're just going to have some fun. It's going to be a fun show.
We are.
We also, if you're listening on the radio, we stay live in the YouTube breaks.
We do.
You can listen to us there. You can talk to us. We'll talk to you. And it's a lot of fun. So I think we're going to take a break right here.
Yeah, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we hopefully will have Brad from SF Niners on the other side and talking 2012, 2013, as well as where the Niners are at currently going into the postseason. Return to the Empire, Mil Fergoso, Nate Littlefield, back in just a moment.
All right. Look at us.
All right,
Look at us.
We're here. That was a really good segment, you guys. Nate, you crushed it.
Yes.
Are you joking?
No, you
Nate
did fantastic.
Nate did a good job. Nate crushed me. It was great.
I didn't crush you, dude. But when you say things like that, I can't let that slide.
Emil, we get it. You want to be involved in these conversations and be relatable. It's okay. I didn't try and bring up rivalries and stuff like that. No.
What
rivals do the Chargers have?
No rivalries, just pain and heartache and suffering.
Here's the thing. I just have like rooted emotions in this. This is why you brought me on the show, right?
It is.
Because I'm the fan here at Sacktown Sports. I make it pretty vocal. I love the 49ers. We're a very King-centric station.
Well, it's purple.
Yeah, it's purple. It's literally purple.
But we're red now.
Look, we got Debo back here. We got Brock back here.
Now that we've taken a hard leap into covering the 49ers, I love it. it's great because we get to interact with guys like Greg Papa and stuff, have them on the station. Like Dave was having Eric Armstead on for a while, but
kicking ass, by the way, Third and Long. Check it out. Check out Eric's podcast.
Also should be back for the playoffs too.
I didn't even do injury report. Do you guys want injury report YouTube chat?
No, let's do it.
Save it for that.
Let's save it for the radio.
Okay.
Is
Brad's
he?
here? Yeah, he's here.
Wonderful.
Do we want to add him now?
It's gonna get obnoxious. I mean, I can, but I would just take him out of program and he can talk to us.
Let's wait for when we go live.
Okay, we'll wait for the radio.
Or is he hearing? I guess he's hearing it through Audition.
Yeah, let's wait for when we go live. Let's have Brad sit in the green room.
He's nodding his head, so I'm pretty sure he can hear us on air.
Wonderful. Good to hear.
Okay, we'll introduce him in this first segment here.
We will.
How much time do we have, Kyle?
About 4 minutes.
Great. Okay. So just a little insider info here. I was just working the Kings game, and you don't have a lot of time to go to the restroom. So I'm gonna go take care of that right now.
I could see you getting antsy.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
Sure. I do the majority of these Kings games. You have to work in 2-minute windows.
No, I've done it before.
The one time that you do is at the beginning of the game. G-Man runs. This is behind the scenes for the real people who are listening.
I don't know this. This is new information.
So every commercial break, you're working within a 2-minute window.
Yes.
So most of the time you can make a run to the bathroom or get water or something, heat up your food, whatever, in 2 minutes. But if you gotta, do an extended stay in the bathroom, there's one time in the game you can do it, because during the third segment, G-Man will always run a coach's interview. And that coach's interview is canned before. Sorry if that's breaking the illusion for people listening. It's pre-recorded.
Hey, Fab Man, come on.
And so G-Man takes care of it on his side. So as long as I leave him up, then you have the 6-minute window to go for it. But for Nate, if I'm doing the math correct, that was at 3:50. So about 3 hours and 20 minutes ago was his last extended break.
So what you're telling me is that Nate's a trooper.
Well, it also tells me that one of us could have stepped in if he really needed to go to the bathroom, but I don't think he was going to, tell us about that.
You see, I haven't been trained how to run the board yet here. I have run boards in the past at our sister station over in Arizona, but I haven't done it for a Kings game yet. So I don't know if
they probably would have had to have been in the post game. So sorry, I was just explaining that the only time you could have possibly made an extended stay in the bathroom is during G-Man's coach's show.
Yeah, even that. You were here today, Kyle, so I really could have asked you, but
that's what I was just saying. We could have,
take
but I don't think you were.
It was a quick.
It was quick.
Kind of a weird show today because we
a little off our time.
Yeah, because we're. First of all, it's a Wednesday. We usually do Tuesday. We were 45 minutes late,
and it's 7 to 8 instead of 6 to 7, like we usually do.
Yeah, so
but it's actually 6:45 to 8.
Appreciate the YouTube chat. I would love to get the likes up to like 20 today. I know it's going to be kind of dead because the timing and everything. So whoever's in here, that's awesome. We appreciate you guys. Download the podcast too.
Yeah.
Read Emil's articles.
Turn the Empire at Sac.
You guys were talking about something that we kind of diverted from it once we got into the Pete Carroll stuff, but you were about to say what team is Sam Darnold trying out for as a
we were
part-time spot. And the answer is, so you remember how Andy Dalton, after he left the Bengals, went to like 3 teams in a row that drafted a rookie quarterback.
Dallas, right? Dallas was riding with.
So he went to Dallas, and then he went to Chicago right before they took Fields.
Yes.
He went to Carolina right before they took.
And he
Bryce
started
Young.
the first few games before Fields took over.
Yeah, because Nagy said, if I'm going out, I want to go out 4 yards at a time running the ball. And
I have a shout.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold will be a New England Patriot next season.
Oh, see, you and I were thinking the right direction, but I was thinking Washington.
That's also a possibility as well.
Like he goes to Washington.
I think Howell's going to be the backup to whoever comes in.
I'm saying Howell could be the third stringer in Washington.
Yikes.
Not even.
That's sad to see.
Yeah,
I'm so glad I'm not a fan of that franchise.
No, someone brought this up.
Trent Williams is real glad not be on that franchise.
So I was listening to Bomani Jones's podcast, and he brought this up. If after everything that's happened to Washington, if you're still rooting for that franchise, do you have to just look at yourself and start to think, am I a loser?
Yeah.
Like after everything that's happened with that team.
Detroit Lions fans been asking themselves that for 30 years.
Yeah, but at least the Detroit Lions fans, you can kind of laugh it off. Like it's hard to laugh off everything that's happened with Washington over the last 10 years.
I guess they're celebrating the fact they have an owner that's not a horrible person.
But you had to go through 10 years of everything that just happened to get to that.
Well, you went through so much, like even their rebrand, like how disastrous was that?
It's just,
and it's still awful. It's still they have
the stadium's falling apart. There's sewage in the stands.
Yeah.
They need a new.
Falling off
they don't have hot water in the showers.
That's actually a surprisingly large number of stadiums. Anyways, 10 seconds. Brad's here. We're gonna get him all squared away.
Till June 2024 to qualified contractors. Visit subcontractorsunited.com today.
Welcome back to the Return of the Empire podcast
with Emil Fragoso and Nate Littlefield.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, we are back. Return of the Empire. All the pronouns. Everyone is invited.
He's playing it safe.
Return to the Empire. Everyone is invited.
You did this last week. It's just I didn't think
it's fine.
Brad is nodding in our YouTube stream. You got to include everyone, Brad, and that's the point, because we are an inclusive podcast, inclusive live show here, and we are including Brad, gracious enough to have his time from the SF Niners, a wonderful, wonderful content creator. Brad, thank you for joining us.
Hey, man, I'm glad you guys brought me on. Looking forward to talk some Niner ball with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Brad, this is your first time on with us. Please explain your background to people who do not know who you are.
Well, I do a ton of 49ers content. So when it comes to covering the San Francisco 49ers, you can find me pretty much anywhere on social media. We have I think we've reached over 500,000 subscribers and followers across all platforms. So we're cooking right now. And with the San Francisco 49ers and what they're doing, they're making it really easy on the content side of things. So basically, I've spent about the last 6 years or so covering the San Francisco 49ers and building the platform and just, being along for the ride. And it's been quite the journey with Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch at the helm.
Yeah, so Brad, let me ask you, how long you've been watching the Niners for?
I would say my whole life. I think when I really, really started paying attention to every single move that was being made, probably around 2009.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we're about the same time frame then too. So I assume you don't like the Seahawks just as much as me. I did a whole 10-minute rant on them coming into the show. Just want to know what you think about this whole Pete Carroll situation.
I'm not going to lie. I was pretty shocked when it came down, especially because earlier this week, I think he was talking about returning and he's got all the energy in the world and he's going to be back. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. I don't expect Pete Carroll to go anywhere. So to hear today that he is no longer the head coach for the Seattle Seahawks, it is definitely end of an era, and honestly an era that I'm fine with being over because as you mentioned, the time frame in which, I started watching 49ers football religiously, he was a pain in my rear end for a good portion of that, as well as many 49er fans. So I don't think too many 49er fans are upset about Pete Carroll not being their coach anymore. But however, he did kind of have them in a spot where Brock Purdy was rolling against him and his group. So it's give or take, but I imagine they are smashing the reset button on the entire thing. So it'll be interesting to see what the Seahawks look like next year.
Yeah, the famous rib game of last season where Brock Purdy proved that he was the starting quarterback for the Niners was against that Seahawks on Thursday night. And Brad, before we go into, because Nate has a little game we're going to play here in a second. Before we go into that, what were your biggest takeaways from not only Week 18, from where the Niners currently stand right now going into the postseason?
I would say health. I think when we started out this season, and if you've been a fan of the San Francisco 49ers for a long time, it comes down to just being healthy and available come playoff time. So there, for most things considered right now, I know Talanoa Hufanga's been out for a majority of the year, but you get Eric Armstead back. George Odom's coming back from IR. Ambry Thomas should be good to go at cornerback. Jair Brown to Sean Gibson. I mean, the names go on and on of everyone who should be ready to go. Christian McCaffrey, fresh legs. I mean, this might be the freshest we've seen Christian McCaffrey since week 1. So yeah, I would say health right now is got to be at the top of the list, because we know that this team is very, very good, arguably the best in the league. And when you combine the health factor and the war of attrition at the end of a 17-game season, That's huge. And the bye, man, I just think I know when we started this journey, we were talking about two things, 1 seed and health. 49ers have accomplished both those things.
Yep.
And now the real season begins in about a week or so.
Well, I want to talk a little more playoffs too before we kind of get into this next segment. So I probably everyone always frames this question like, who do you fear the most in the playoffs? Who in the NFC stands between the Niners and the Super Bowl, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask you, who do you want to see in the playoffs? What path do you want to see the Niners take? Who do you want them to be to get to the Super Bowl?
This one's an easy one for me. I would love to have the Philadelphia Eagles come on over to Levi's Stadium. The 49ers have been making the trip over there the last 2 times. Come on over, Eagles. Make yourself at home here in Santa Clara.
Please.
Pull up a seat and let get to know the faithful a little bit, because I was at the NFC Championship game in Philadelphia, and as you guys know, it was a brutal one.
Yeah.
And those fans are exactly as advertised. So would love to kind of give a hometown welcome to the Philadelphia Eagles. And obviously the Eagles are 1-5 since the San Francisco 49ers dominated them on national television. So to get them back in the home stadium and give them a warm welcome, I would honestly enjoy that quite a bit.
So return the favor, if you will.
Yeah.
100%.
So who's the other? Because we got to go through 2. Who would be the other one?
I would not mind. I look at Dallas again, another team that we beat. I mean, you look at the possible opponents. The San Francisco 49ers have already beat 4 of the 6 available opponents. So, and we know that we match up really well against Dallas, and we have their number going back to last year and 2021 when Jimmy Garoppolo beat them on the road. I wouldn't mind seeing Dallas again. I think the team, if I had to kind of throw out maybe some caution, and I hate to say it because it's the Rams.
Yep.
But
yeah.
We know what it is when it comes to the NFC West and these division rivalries. It's toss it up, throw it in the air. These guys just have a different DNA when it comes to playing each other. So the Detroit Lions, I think the 49ers would match up well with them. Dallas Cowboys, Green Bay would be an interesting one. They've already beat Tampa Bay, but it's those in-division opponents that you just never know what wrinkle they're going to throw at you. And it'll be interesting. I don't take the last game of the year as much of anything.
Yeah.
But, I was there at, as we call Levi South or SoFi Stadium. I was at that game week 2. I'm not going to lie. The Rams really showed that they were a good team back then, and they have continued to prove that throughout the end of the year. So they're one of those teams that, you got to give them respect. Even though not a big fan of our division rivals, I have to give them a little bit of respect.
Because you were there in week 2. Did you find that backdoor cover with the field goal a little bit interesting?
That was so weird.
It was very interesting. And I did hear that angle of it. It definitely was an interesting element of it. But I mean, just being there, being in that stadium that is an away stadium, but 90% 49er fans. Yeah. It was one of the craziest sporting experiences I've ever been to.
Yeah, I was there for the NFC Championship in 21, the Debo year, Debo's insane year. Yeah, and it was about 50-50. There was that Debo, that chant was going on. And the whole place looked purple because it was all blue and red. That stadium is wild. It is like a spaceship going there. But you travel for a lot of games, right? I'm curious, just on a personal level, what stadium that you've been to outside of Levi's is maybe your favorite or like the coolest one, or what kind of like sticks out to you as someone who travels so much?
I mean, that Rams stadium is intense. Like you said, it's like a spaceship. It's huge. The footprint that it holds, it just feels like it just keeps going with different decks of rows of seats, and it's a pretty spectacular stadium. I'm not gonna lie. So I it's very gracious of the Rams to build us a vacation home once and sometimes twice a year.
What a $4 billion vacation home. That was real nice of them.
Thank you, Stan Kroenke. Appreciate it.
Yeah, right.
Thanks, McVay. It's cool of you. Well, Kyle, if you could bring up that sheet. If you're watching on YouTube, we have just a comparison here. I want to bring this up of the 2012 Super Bowl team, comparing them to this year's 2023 team. I almost said Super Bowl team. I'm going to knock on wood. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself here.
I'll knock on wood with you.
Yeah, it's I'm not going to even go there. But I just went through and kind of wrote down the depth chart by hand. So excuse any horrible mistakes on any names here. I didn't even try Kyle Juszczyk's name. I just did Juszczyk. I just went and did just a quick rundown here. And for the D line, the difference between the two, this team runs a 4-3 defense a lot, and the Harbaugh team ran a 3-4. So you have the difference between like D ends and outside linebackers. So I just kind of put the D line as one whole. But if you're looking here, just comparing on a very basic level, each unit. So you got the quarterback room, the running backs, the wide receivers, the tight ends, the O-line, middle linebackers, D-line, defensive backs, and special teams. What on that 2012 team do you think which unit is better than this 2023 team? Because I think there might be one or two, but I'm curious to see what you think, Brad.
Whew, you guys are putting me on the spot with this one. Because both these teams are absolutely stacked, and that 2012 team, man, just holds a special spot near and dear to my heart. I got the IU Potty jersey hanging up right behind me.
Just real quick, too, I just maybe give you a second while you think. When I was putting this list together earlier while I was working, it was great to kind of go down that memory lane because this was over 10 years ago now. To see some of these names, like Daniel Kilgore, I was like, oh, man, he was an Alex Boone. I remember
Joe Looney.
Yeah, he had kind of an ugly departure with the Niners, but he was great. And it's like this tight end room had Vernon Davis and Delanie Walker. Delanie Walker goes on to be a star in his own right, and it was fun to kind of see these names. But like if I'm looking strictly at the wide receivers here, I think that one is probably the most obvious. Where it's like, all right, this team now is significantly better when it comes to wide receivers.
Yeah, 100%. How about we go top to bottom? So I could go coach all the way down to special teams.
Yeah, let's do it.
If I'm going coach, and again, big Jim Harbaugh guy, who's got it better than us, just won the Natty with Michigan. Congrats to him.
Yeah.
And if you're a 49er fan back in those days, like Jim Harbaugh's your guy. Like he was the guy who brought the 49ers back to relevance after being just the butt of every joke in the NFL.
It was overnight. It was like overnight. He took this roster and
100%.
He just flipped it. Yeah.
And they went 13-3 with Alex Smith, a guy that everyone had casted off as a bust. And he had the perfect scheme for what they had. Run the ball with Frank Gore. Do not turn the ball over. And that was it on the offensive side. But all that being said, giving Jim his flowers, I'm going Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan's innovation, the way that he can scheme it up and dial it up, as we know, is at the top of anyone in the league right now. And you could make the case over the last decade or two, he's just really pushed the envelope with developing the offensive side of the football. So I got to go Kyle with the coach.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. I think the big thing is we're talking about how Harbaugh took a roster that was kind of already there. I know he drafted like Alden Smith and Kaepernick, but Kyle Shanahan built his from the ground up. Like he got all his guys, and we watched him take his guys and turn them elite. We watched him take these middle round draft picks and turn them into all pro guys
over and over again.
So I do think Kyle Shanahan, maybe sometimes he gets a little ahead of himself. That's kind of the knock on him, right? Gets in his own head, but I think it's Shanahan all day.
Yeah. I'm not going to sit here and say Kyle Shanahan's the perfect coach, but like he's still at the top of the league right now. I mean, you just had Peyton Manning come out and say if he could play for any coach in the NFL right now, it would be Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah.
And I think that's an opinion that you really have to listen to, regardless of what you feel. So Kyle Shanahan for me. If I got to go to the quarterback, so we're going 2012.
Yeah.
Ooh,
so that year, for context, halfway through the season, Alex goes down.
Yep.
He gets hit in the head. Kaepernick comes in and takes the league by storm, really. So that quarterback room, I have the list here. I'll just read it out. The 2012 team: Colin Kaepernick, Alex Smith, Scott Tolzien, who was bounced around the league. And then in 2023, obviously you got Brock, Sam Darnold, and Brandon Allen. It's
Because I look at it like this. We saw Colin Kaepernick thrust into the game. Was it that Monday night game against the Bears, right? I think Alex Smith goes down with a concussion. And then
I think it was the Rams, right?
It could have been.
Yeah, long time ago.
Cap comes in and just does not give the job back. And that was some of the best ball we've seen Cap. I was a big fan of Colin Kaepernick coming out of Nevada. But to be honest, if I'm going Kyle Shanahan, I got to keep the quarterback that has been executing his scheme to perfection. I think Brock Purdy right now, based on if we're picking and choosing, although I love what Colin and Alex did, that offense was, I would say, and not to be disrespectful at all, it was a little bit elementary compared to what Brock and Kyle are executing right now.
Yes.
And I mean, you look at the 49ers weapons, which we'll get to. This is the first offense in NFL history to have a running back, 2 wide receivers, and a tight end go over 1,000 scrimmage yards. Never happened before.
Nope.
I have to go with Brock. I have to.
Yeah, and it happened in 16 weeks too. So that's also a bit of a discrepancy when comparing these two eras, because we're still early on in that 17 game season
now.
A few years in, but like in 2012, you only had the 16, so it's a little bit different. But
the good news is that they had basically a nonsense week 18, so it is 16 games.
Yeah. So that's true. But I think without a question, it's a 2023 team.
Yeah.
Kaepernick was solid. He came in. I think it took a lot of teams. It took the league a little bit to figure him out, but once they did, it was over. And then he didn't have a coach that helped him out post Harbaugh. Even his last year with Harbaugh, that 8-8 year, just mediocre. He was very inaccurate.
He regressed.
Regressed heavily. Just fell out of his game. So Brock, like, we've seen the peak of Kaepernick. In my opinion, I don't think we've seen the peak of Brock yet.
No.
I think that's still coming. And what we've seen of Brock already, I would take that over anyone in that 2012 room. So, and then Darnold's fine. Brandon Allen's fine. So,
I'm just worried about Brock.
just Brock.
Protect Brock at all costs.
I put him there just kind of as just to kind of see.
Quarterback.
Evaluation of the whole thing,
yeah, but I would take Alex Smith over Sam Darnold.
First, I would as well.
Yeah, I would do that. I want that on the record. But now we go to running backs. The 2012 team: Frank Gore, Kendall Hunter, who's a guy who didn't get enough love. I don't think he was a great number 2, kind of a faster guy. And then you get Anthony Dixon, who bounced around the league after that, and Bruce Miller, solid fullback.
Let's not bring that up.
And then we're talking about on the field here. We're talking on the field. And then 2023, because a lot of this team actually got in a lot of trouble post. But we don't have to get into that. Running backs now, you got CMC, Eli Mitchell, Jordan Mason, Kyle Juszczyk. I think this one is closer than the quarterbacks, but still, just CMC and Elijah Mitchell is a starting running back. Like, could very well be a starting running back. Has been a starting running back in this league. Very good. Jordan Mason, same thing.
Frank rookie rushing record.
Exactly. So, and then Juszczyk is more diverse. Just the way Shanahan uses him, he showed off more of his skills, but. I mean, Frank Gore is the man. Like, what can you say there?
That's royalty right there. That's Niner royalty. This is obviously a hard one because it's pulling on my heartstrings. As a 49er fan, Frank Gore is just an absolute legend. Of course, respected by every single fan that roots for the 49ers. And I agree with Kendall Hunter. I held the thought process that Kendall Hunter could have been the leading rusher in that offense if he got more opportunity, just because he was so explosive. He brought an explosive element where Frank Gore is kind of a grinded out kind of running back, which was perfect for what they were trying to do as an offense.
Yes.
But Kendall brought this explosiveness where, man, he found that hole. He hit it, one cut, he's gone. Kendall Hunter was very, I would say, even underutilized, but underrated as well. Anthony Dixon, I think of the Tony Montana squad over there
for
on
sure.
teams. He'd get his occasional goal line touchdown. And Bruce Miller, I really liked Bruce Miller coming out, converted defensive end to fullback, and he played really well on the field. But honestly, it's also stylistically too, because Frank and that room fits Harbaugh really well.
Yeah.
CMC, Kyle Juszczyk, Elijah, they fit Kyle really well. But it's hard to discount what CMC is doing right now as a runner and a pass catcher. He
100%.
is probably one of the most dynamic weapons we have seen in the NFL in a while. I
think you can just say he is. I think I won't blame you, dude. You could just say he is. I'm not going to argue.
He is.
I'm not arguing.
He's built different. He's not
Yeah.
real. He's not human. And you saw it at Stanford. He was in our backyard. So I got to watch CMC all throughout his college career. We knew what it was with him.
I saw him, just side note, I saw the Axe Bowl, him and Jared Goff play each other. And that's the first time I really became aware of CMC. I watched him go for like 500 all-purpose yards because he was also their return man at the time.
Nuts,
so
man.
it was quite the treat to watch him.
Him and Reggie had some crazy tape, man.
Yeah.
I'm going 2023 running back room. I got
Yeah. Especially with the Shanahan thing. So yeah, I think CMC is he's
different.
too much.
All right, wide receivers.
We'll do wide receiver. Let's do wide receivers, and then we'll go to break after this. And Brad, will you stick around with us through the break and come back after? Great. So wide receivers, 2012 team. We got Michael Crabtree, then a pretty steep drop off. Ted Ginn, who's more of a return man.
Yeah.
Mario Manningham, which I remember at the time being stoked about. I thought he could be the wide receiver. I don't know what I was thinking.
He had that one catch in the Super Bowl, and everyone thought he was the guy.
Yeah, him, and then old man Randy Moss. And the guy I don't even like to bring up, Kyle Williams. So that's kind of who was in the room comparatively to this team. This one, I think, is just a no-brainer. Yeah. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Jawan Jennings, Ray McLeod, Ronnie Bell. That's kind of who the Niners been running with. Like Chris Conley's been around. Kind of just put the real essential guys who have been more in the game. And Ronnie, fringe guy, but with Ray being out, he's got more run at the end of the year. But Brad, what are you thinking here?
This 2023, hands down, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk heavily just outweigh the entire 2012 group, like completely. I always thought, and this might not be, not every 49er fan might not agree with me, but Crabtree was always kind of average to me.
Oh, I agree. I'm on your side there.
And then when he left, it was even more apparent how average he was to me.
Yeah.
The whole chain snatch. So I'm like removed from Crabtree. I'm just like, you can go stay over there with the Raiders. So for me, easily 2023, hands down, not up for debate. Not even close.
Someone in the chat actually just said, honest, I put Jawan Jennings over Crabtree. That's I think that's saying something.
Yeah. I mean, it's Jawan. I'll say Jawan has more heart or more dog in him than Crabtree.
Oh, yeah, man.
Because Jawan is just
the best run blocking wide on the NFL.
Crabtree do anything like what Jawan did against Seattle this year in Seattle, where he threw off 5 guys and ran for that first down. Like Crabtree, I never saw him do anything like that. I saw him pout and complain a lot, though. And that would not fly with Shanahan.
Oh, no.
He would not be on this roster. He was the epitome of a me guy who was not very good. So
wouldn't block. Yeah. I mean,
here's a question, Brad. Out of the 2012 wide receivers, how many are making the Shanahan team because they can block?
Oh, man.
Ooh.
I don't think
any.
The only
Randy's not blocking.
Randy ain't blocking.
Randy's not doing anything to help the team, especially at 50 years old or however old he was.
But that's the point with having the 2023 wideouts over 2012, because they're such complete players.
Yes,
like you're not getting a Brandon Ayuk in 2012 running downfield blocking against the Steelers. You're not getting that.
All these guys on this 2023 team, I think, are just, even if they weren't blockers, just better at the position.
Yeah,
just like Ayuk is probably the best pure wide receiver there.
Mm-hmm.
Just when you look at a standard by the book receiver, he's probably the best one on this list.
Yeah.
And then it just that 20, I can't believe the 2012 team had it just didn't work. It didn't work. They didn't need him though, because like you said, Brad, earlier, they would just ground and pound the ball and not turn it over. Try not to, at least.
Yeah,
100%.
But I think we got to get to a break here. We're going to stick with Brad. We're going to get to the second half of the list. We still got tight ends, the offensive line, middle linebackers, D-line, defensive backs, and special teams. We're going to wrap that up here on the other side of this break, right here on Sacktown Sports.
The only place you'll find Harrison Barnes.
Oh, hold up. Sorry, I got to take it out here.
Sorry,
all right,
Emil. I just bulldozed through you right there.
No, I wanted you to do that.
Okay,
Let's say, Brad, can you still hear us?
I can.
Okay, cool.
wonderful.
So
Brad,
I've never
this
tried
is
that
Kyle
before.
in the back here. He's our producer tonight.
Okay.
Hey, Brad, and the YouTube can still hear him.
Yeah.
I've never tried to have a YouTube guest stay on during the break, so
This
we
is
got
fun
it
for
to
us.
work.
Most people at the station don't. Just a heads up, Brad. I'm sure you don't know much about us. Most we just kind of run commercials during the breaks here. We have this own little independent corner, kind of run our own show here. So we're super happy that you could join us.
That's pretty cool. Huh?
They gave the 20-year-olds a chance to do an hour show every weekend. That's what's happening.
I love it, man.
Yeah, and if you're having a good time, we'd love to get you on one of our. We go 6 to 6 every day during the week. Our midday show would love to have you for sure. If
Yeah,
you're interested to talk Niners. But yeah, so you're not traveling this week, right? Obviously, you're just watching the playoff games at home. Is that kind of the plan?
Yeah, I get to watch football without worrying about my team losing. That's one of the greatest experiences I can have as covering this team.
Well, I mean, unless they're like out of the playoffs, that's less fun.
That's very true. That's very true.
Kyle,
that's its own thing.
But we know that we got the bye, so
yeah, we're chilling.
Yeah,
and you briefly mentioned it coming on the show, but like last week doesn't mean anything for you, right? Doesn't mean anything for me.
No. Not at all. Yeah. Especially too, they were up early, you know, when they were running the starters. And no, that was I've been calling it the playoff preseason game. That's what
I called it too.
So it was I thought it was great for the young guys. Like how many opportunities do those guys get? Like the Robert Beals, who might be thrust into a huge role coming up in the playoffs with Cleveland Farrell being out. Like that's such great experience for those types of guys, like Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles running around, Oren Burks. Like we know that we're going to have to rely on this depth. So it's not that the game didn't mean anything. It didn't mean anything in the win-loss record and that kind of stuff. But it was a great developmental showcase, I thought.
The only thing I will say, I took a note of this. I think I said it on one of the shows. I think this morning, actually, on the morning show. The only thing I took from the Week 18 preseason game was that I'm calling it that because that's how it felt for us being there. It was 3rd and long, and this has been a whole thing for the Niners all season long. They cannot stop 3rd and long to save their life against a pass-happy quarterback. 3rd and 17, they're able to convert. 3rd and 10, able to convert. 3rd and 12, able to convert. And that's one of the things in the secondary that they have to kind of fix going into the playoffs, because if they go against a Stafford, guys who are pass-heavy, that's going to be a problem for them.
Quick pause. We'll keep it going on air.
We're coming back for
10
a break here.
seconds.
We'll give it a sec.
For acting. When people are fed, futures are nourished. Join the movement to end hunger at feedingamerica.org/act now.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Return of the Empire podcast
with Emil Fragoso and Nate Littlefield.
Return of the Empire, back, segment 3. And we're playing a great game. We have a wonderful guest here with us. Brad of SF Niners is here. Wonderful content creator. Excellent Niners analysis. Knowing the history. Playing a little bit of history. Comparing 2023 to 2012. Obviously, the 2012 team went to the Super Bowl. 2023 team has ambitions of going to the Super Bowl.
Yep.
But they are stacked up very nicely in terms of having Pro Bowlers and all pros across the line. Nate, where are we at?
So we're about halfway through here, almost done with the offense. We got 2 more groups to go through here. We're going to start with the 2012 tight ends. So this one is probably this is one of the more contentious ones, I'll say. You got Vernon Davis, Delaney Walker, and Garrett Selleck on that 2012 team.
Yep.
Garrett Selleck, I believe his brother or cousin played for the Eagles in that era too. And Garrett Selleck was a totally fine 3rd stringer tight end. I thought he was solid. He was a good blocker, big dude. Delaney Walker turned into a star in his own right with the Titans. And Vernon Davis was okay until Harbaugh came around and then really stepped it up, and kind of known for that argument with Singletary on the sideline.
Mm-hmm.
You get in the 2023 team, obviously the man, George Kittle, and then more of a significant drop-off, Charlie Warner and Ross Dwelley. This is kind of the situation again, like with running backs, where you had the best one on 2023, but it might be a quality over quantity situation here. Brad, what do you think is the better room?
If we're talking room,
just altogether, the tight ends altogether, which would you rather have?
This is a really tough one because I'm a George Kittle truther from the very beginning. He was a draft crush of mine. Coming out of Iowa, I'm super big into draft evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
So he was already one of my favorite players before he was drafted to the 49ers. And then fast forward, it just ramped up from there. He, to me, is the complete tight end. And that was one of the reasons why I was drawn to him throughout the draft process. Even though he was only used like a fullback in college, you could see that he had all the traits to be what he is as a receiver. So for me, George Kittle is, for me, what a tight end should be, which isn't taking away from what Vernon Davis is, because Vernon Davis was a genetically modified freak built in a lab who ran like a 4.3 40 at like 250 pounds. Like, it was insane, like what Vernon Davis was. So they're two different specimens. George Kittle fits to a T to what Kyle Shanahan needs. Like, I talk about it all the time. We break down film on my channel all the time. Kittle is at the forefront of the success of the 49ers run game.
Yeah,
it's definitely not too often that you're looking at tight ends as the focal point in the run game. Him and Kyle Juszczyk, wherever those two guys are, there's a good chance they're opening up the hole for Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, or whoever. So George, to me, is, I've been saying it, and it's a little bit biased maybe, but I've been calling him the best tight end since he's been in the league. I know Travis Kelce has all the stats. He's phenomenal. He fits that offense perfectly. But to me, George is the complete tight end.
Yes.
But the room of the 2012 team, Delaney Walker was a dog. I love Delaney.
Love Delaney.
So it's honestly a lot closer. When you're comparing rooms, I would say George Kittle's the best overall tight end out of the entire pool. But when you have Vernon Davis and Delaney Walker, imagine Kyle Shanahan with two of those tight ends. Like, so
that's a great point. I didn't even. Yeah, Vernon. Yeah,
hard one, man.
Yeah, no, that's
a hard one.
Delaney Walker in the Shanahan offense would be insane. I didn't even consider that.
And he probably wouldn't be used primarily as a blocker. Delaney would switch to kind of the more Kittle role.
Yeah,
and you could use Vernon like.
You could use Jalen Hurd in the.
Sorry about that.
Oh, Brad, I think your mic cut out there for a second. You switched mics or something. I think you switched to your headset.
Now.
I don't know why Brad's mic.
Oh yeah, yeah. So, yeah.
Are you there? Are you there,
we
Brad?
got you back.
Yeah, can you hear me? Sorry about that.
Yeah. I think it switched to your headset or something.
Yeah, my AirPod Maxes keep battling with my mic, but
that's no fun.
Anyways, it's a hard one because you could get creative with Vernon Delaney on the field at the same time, but also George Kittle is the prototypical tight end for this scheme. Oh, that's a hard one because it's room versus room, not tight end versus tight end.
Well, we got to get an answer here, Brad.
I'm gonna give me George Kittle. Just give me George Kittle.
Okay, give me George Kittle. I'm gonna go with you then. I'm gonna go with 2023. Yeah, you got 12.
I'm taking 12. I'm
Okay,
taking 12.
all right.
They're more complete room. We're doing this on
So
room,
we're
and I do think Vernon and Delaney can both thrive in the Shanahan offense, especially because of their athleticism.
I agree. I think they thrive.
That's a good
Either
point.
way, they're both very good. Now let's jump over to the offensive line. This is kind of hard. I like to use PFF a lot when analyzing O linemen because I never like played O line. It's hard for me to like comprehend the position and what makes an offensive lineman so great.
Here's the good news, though. We have someone who has.
Oh, really?
Yes, we do.
Well, so I think just briefly from the little knowledge that I have, I'm going to list these off and just kind of give a quick analysis of what I think, and then give it off to Brad here. But the 2012 team, you got Alex Boone, Anthony Davis, Jonathan Goodwood, Mike Upati, Joe Staley, the man, Daniel Kilgore, and Joe Looney. That's just kind of the guys that got a lot of run. And then this year's team, Trent Williams, Aaron Biggs, Spencer Burford, Colton McKivitz, John Feliciano, who's been great this year, by the way. He's been probably like the most underrated Niner this year. Jake Brendel and Jalen Moore's got some run. I think just looking at it, I would take – it's very similar, again, to this tight end thing where you got Trent Williams on that 2023 team. He's the best player, right? Probably on this sheet. But I think I'm taking the 2012 team as a whole. I think that their run blocking was insane. They could get Kaepernick some time. They were very, very good.
Yeah, so being a former offensive lineman, this is right in my wheelhouse, and I've studied both of these groups. And to me, Trent Williams is the best offensive lineman to ever play the game, and I'll go to the grave saying that. And that's no disrespect to the greats that have come before him. Trent is just different. He's doing things that we have never seen technically. He's changing the way offensive line is played. So tons of respect to Trent. But if I'm picking, I'm going with the 2012 entire group, because when you have Joe Staley, even though I do think Trent Williams is better than Joe Staley's still Hall of Fame caliber tackle, which is insane how they went from Staley to Trent Williams. But then you have Mike Iupati, who was a baller. Like I said, I got his jersey behind me.
Yeah, man.
And then Jonathan Goodwin was a phenomenal safety. And the combination of Alex Boone and Anthony Davis in their prime, that offensive line was phenomenal. We haven't seen an offensive line that good on the 49ers since then.
Yeah. So
I would agree. As a unit,
so we're all 12. We're all 20,
I would
12.
agree with 12, yes.
Okay, great. All right, so let's go on to middle linebackers. Yeah, we're getting into the defense now. This one is the tightest one. I know I've been saying that kind of, but looking at it, I think this is the toughest one for me. 2012, you got Patrick Willis, who I got to meet this summer, and I fanboyed out with, and it was kind of embarrassing because it was a media thing, but whatever. You got Pat Willis, Navarro Bowman, and Michael Wilhoit, who I kind of forgot about until I was doing this list. And I was like, yeah, he was pretty essential to that team, even though they ran that 3-4. And then in the 2023, you have Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, and Oren Burks. Just solid. Very, very solid. You got all pro. Dre got robbed this year of being a Pro Bowler. I think next year he might sneak in. I think Wagner doesn't do it next year.
He might retire. It might be how he sneaks in.
But if I'm picking between these two, I've thought about this a lot. I'll sometimes, this keeps me up at night, like literally if I'm thinking about comparing the two, because Patrick Willis, I mean, is like in my eyes, like that era of linebackers was so insane. You got him, you got Ray Lewis, you got Urlacher and Lance Briggs, and then he's lined up with Bowman. And to say that they were like the best duo in that time frame, I believe that to be true. And then you got Fred, who's just a coverage freak. You got Aaron Rodgers going up to him after games saying he's the best in the game right now. Dre Greenlaw is the perfect yin to his yang. He's really just the enforcer. He's a killer. Emil likes to call him Thunder and Lightning, and Dre being the Thunder.
I call him Predator and the Doctor. That's what I call him.
Is that what you call him?
Yeah, because Fred looks like Predator with the helmet on, and Dr. Dre, obviously.
And then Oren Burks has just been like just a field manager. He's kind of a do-it-all guy, but God, I think I got to pick the 12 team, even though maybe the coverage might be a little worse. But those two, Willis and Bowman, it's just those are the guy. I love them. They're awesome.
I think it's era dependent, honestly. Like
that's a great point.
If you're going with the 2012 era, it's hands down Patrick Willis, Navarro Bowman. And if you're going with this new era, which is predominantly a passing league, you're not being able to hit as hard as they used to. Runners aren't as prominent and as large. Like you don't have Steven Jackson running between the tackles anymore. So I think it really is era dependent. So it's really challenging because Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, probably two of the best cover linebackers in the league right now. Sideline to sideline speed is insane, but they fit their era so perfectly.
Yeah.
I would really have to say it's depending on what era you're choosing.
Let's say let's put them both in the 1980s. Let's just say 1985.
Well, then I'm going Patrick Willis, Navarro Bowman.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
and then if you're going today, you're going Fred and
Warner, Dre Greenlaw.
Okay, what about 2002? What about 2002?
2002, probably still going Patrick Willis, Navarro Bowman. I think anything before the new wave of kind of the passing league, I'm probably going Patrick Willis.
So what if we split it right down the middle? 2017.
Oh, 2017.
Ooh, I think good question, Kyle.
Bowman might have even still been on the roster in 2017.
Bowman's was he coming off the ACL?
That was the end of Luke Kuechly. Luke Kuechly
Yeah.
retired 2 years after that, so I think of Luke Kuechly as kind of the last of the dying breed.
Yeah,
is kind of where.
And 17 was the year Warner got drafted.
Yes, it was.
Interesting.
So if we're going prime, both of these, if we're going prime, I'm probably still going Patrick Willis, Navarro Bowman. They were legendary. Those two at their peak, unbelievable. They were so fun to watch.
Yeah, I don't blame you at all. I don't blame you at all. So we're kind of coming up against the clock here, but I really want to get this done. We appreciate Brad from SF Niners on just all platforms, Instagram, X, YouTube. But we're gonna get a D-line here. 2012 team: Aldon Smith, Justin Smith, Ahmad Brooks, Ray McDonald, not Ray.
No.
Isaac Sopoaga, Ian Williams, Ricky Jean Francois. There's a couple other guys in there. Those were just the notable ones again.
Forgot Francois.
This team, 23 team: Nick Bosa, Chase Young, Randy Gregory, Javon Hargrave, Eric Armstead, Cleveland Ferrell, Javon Kinlaw. Another toss-up, another tight one. Again, you got, Nick Bosa's more of a DN. Aldon Smith was outside linebacker. Justin Smith, D-tack. It's so tough. It is era dependent. It's defense dependent. It's coordinator dependent. Because Steve Wilkes is so much different than Vic Fangio.
Yes.
Fangio is the man. I probably should have included Fangio and Wilkes. And I know there's no offensive coordinator now for the Niners, but this one is so hard, Brad. I'm super curious which one you take.
For me, I agree it's hard, but I am going 2012 because I think Justin Smith could play in a 4-3-3-4. He was a 3-4 defensive end, but he's playing over the 3-tech regardless in either one of those schemes. And we know how dominant Justin Smith was on that interior. Those loop games that they ran with Aldon Smith, unbelievable. And if you get prime Aldon Smith, a clean-nosed, young, getting after it, Aldon Smith, he's going to be one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. So him and Nick Bosa kind of cancel each other out. But then you look at the rest. Ahmad Brooks was phenomenal off the edge. Ian Williams, being that far down the list, was a starting caliber defensive tackle. Sopoaga was a baller, and so was Ray McDonald. So I'm going 2012. I think you could mix those guys up in a 4-3 as well. Ahmad Brooks is more kind of an outside linebacker, but I think Aldon Smith would have been a potential scheme versatility. You could put him on the wide nine easily.
Yeah. If you take wide nine, he could just reach an arm out and cover the hole. He was just amazing. I think he was a Hall of Fame lock if he stayed out of trouble outside.
He had so much talent.
I think he was. Just his size and speed, everything was insane. When he'd get a sack and then just run and sit on the bench, that was that was so cool. He was a man. But it kind of, the 23 team is getting me a little here with Nick Bosa, because how do you not pick a D-line with Nick Bosa on it?
And Chase Young.
Yeah.
And Hargrave and Eric Armstead.
I think I'm going to go with the 12 team, though. I think I'm going to stay. What do you think?
I'm taking 23.
You're taking 23?
This team is just, they're not even playing that well right now, and it feels like, and yet they're still playing well.
Yeah.
They haven't reached their potential, it feels like.
They're
Brad's
missing
the
Eric,
tiebreaker then here.
So.
Yes, he is.
All right. DBs, real quick. This one I think is going to be super quick for us. Goldson, Whitner, Carlos Rogers, Terrell Brown, Chris Culliver, Parrish Cox, CJ Spillman, Tremaine Brock, And then 23 team, you got Demo Lenore, Ambry Thomas, Travarius Ward, Hufanga, Tashawn Gibson, Isaiah Oliver, Jair Brown. I included Huff just because, I mean, he's a part of this team still. He tore his ACL this year, but he's still really important to this team. Yeah. I'm going to go with the 23 team because you have the not all pro. You have the Pro Bowler in Travarius Ward. You have Huff coming off the All-Pro season. I think Ambry and Demo are fine. They're good. Tashawn Gibson is better than fine. He's one level up from them. Jair Brown has stepped in, has played great, especially for a rookie. Those old guys, they just hit hard. The 12 team, they hit really hard. They weren't amazing. They would just lay the smack, and it was fun to watch, but I don't think they were great.
Yeah, no, Deshaun Goldson was one of my favorite players of that era because he would just destroy you over the middle, but they couldn't even do that in today's era. So it'd be interesting to see how they would translate. So I agree. I'm going 2023. Talanoa Hufanga, obviously tough injury, but he still has an opportunity to get even better. And when you look at Charvarius Ward and what he's been able to do, Jair Brown has a ton of promise, and I really do think like Terrell Brown, Chris Coliver, little overrated, I might say. Carlos Roberts, maybe, like they were aided by the pass rush.
Yeah, I don't mean to interrupt you here, but on the radio side of things, we got to wrap things up. We're going to stay live on YouTube for a few extra minutes, kind of wrap up this segment real quick. Brad, SF Niners everywhere, right? We're super happy to have you on. Hoping to get you on some future shows here at the station. Absolutely. We love that you came on at night.
At Graham_SFN on Twitter. Go give him a follow and go follow his pods and his YouTube. Everything over there. Appreciate everyone. Return of the Empire.
Emil Fragoso, Sacktown Sports. Read his articles. Niners Insider. You got me, Nate Littlefield on Instagram. We got to wrap up here. We're going to finish things on the radio side, staying live on YouTube. Thank you, everybody. Sacktown Sports, 1140.
All right. Cool.
Cool. Yeah, Brad, sorry to cut you off there. We got hard out.
I know you're up against it. Those are really
we have a pre-recorded show going after it. If it messes up, I'm gonna get a nice little talking to.
This is why podcasts are fun, though. You go as long as you want, but radio restrictions be damned. Now,
radio restrictions are kind of fun. I kind of like the chaos of radio now. Like you have to be. I don't know. It's
you have to be punctual with your takes. You can't be like me.
Yeah.
I was like, the wide receivers when you guys were doing it, I was like, we kind of know what the deal like.
Yeah. I know, but it's fun to go down memory lane like
Mario Manningham is such a great name. You're right.
Yeah. But anyways, DBs, did you kind of taking the 23 team?
Yeah, I'm going 23.
Okay. Emil, what are you taking?
I'm taking 23. Yeah.
Yes, me too. Yeah. All right, last one, special teams. So David Akers this season, he fell apart. I remember this and being scared. This is eerily similar.
It's a good comparison
to the Niners, but he was 29 for 42. He made every extra point, but keep in mind the extra point was short then. 44 for 44. The extra point was a lot closer than it is now.
I remember this.
He missed 13 field goals, and Moody's missed 5 this year? 6?
I believe you're correct, but yes.
I think he's kicked a lot less too.
He has.
But David Akers was shanking kicks, and it was terrifying.
25 he missed 4, 25 attempts, 21 makes.
He was 69%, David Akers. So that is awful.
Horrible.
Andy Lee too. I think. He was a Niners class. I mean, he's a guy stuck around forever. Played for the Cardinals forever, right? If I'm not mistaken, just was in the league. But Andy Lee was awesome.
Yeah, he was.
This one,
All-Pro.
I don't know. Brad, I want to hear what you have to say before I answer.
Andy Lee was an All-Pro that season.
I think we even had. I think Brian Jennings was a long snapper back then too.
That sounds right. That sounds right.
And he was a long tenured 49er. Yeah, the 29 of 42 is a no-go for me, even though Jake Moody has had his struggles. But you look at Mitch Wisnowski's, punting at a Pro Bowl level, if you could say that. He's been playing really well. And Jake Moody, I know everyone's got a lot of PTSD around it because of the 2 particular games where it stands out, Browns, and again, that game against the Rams. But man, Akers was 69%. I mean, normally that's nice, but that's not nice here. So I can't go with that. I got to go with the 2023 team.
I would go with the 2023 team too. And as well, I was mostly mad when they're talking about Pro Bowl that Mitch didn't make the Pro Bowl that Brian Anger made over.
You were pretty mad about
I did the stats on this. Mitch had better stats. I don't know what this was.
Yeah, that was your kind of number one. You wrote that
Mitch
article.
has been awesome this year.
So
passionate.
I think I'm just gonna go with 23 because of the missed field goals. I remember being really stressed out about that watching that season, worried it would come down to a close field goal. I'm looking at your chat, Brad. You got Ellis in here saying, so it's safe to say the 12 defense was way better versus the run and the 23 better versus the pass. I think that's kind of the perfect way to put it, right? Because like you said, different eras. This passing has just gotten more insane since that 12 era. Like it was crazy then. Like that was right before Peyton Manning stepped into the Broncos and or that was the year Peyton Manning stepped into the Broncos and, broke all those records through 50 touchdowns. I was like pre-Mahomes, and then the league has just gotten more and more wild when it comes to passing. So it is better to have that 23 team now than it would be in 12, right? That's fair to say.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's such a hard comparison because there's so much talent on both the rosters, and it's just they fit so well with what they're being asked to do in their own individual era, like you were saying. So it's like it's kind of pick your poison almost, because that Jim Harbaugh roster, the 3 tight end sets and the fullback, I mean, it just fit so perfectly for what they were trying to do. Just grind it out. They don't care if you know what they were doing. They're just going to run it, right into your face. And that's the way they play defense too. They would just punch you. So they're both really, really talented at the end of the day.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, that's why I kind of wanted to do this. I've been thinking about it a little bit. For me, it started with comparing the two middle linebackers, trying to find an answer there, because I think you hit it right on the head when you said it's era dependent. But I think for the most part, I'm really taking the 23 team in every facet, right? Like I think this team is better.
They're so OP.
The passing ability of this 23 team blows the 2012 team out of the water.
And the funniest part is that they don't even throw it deep that much. They beat you with just strategy, just going down the field, churning out.
The 12 team never threw it deep. They basically if you had a 40-yard play, it was like, oh my God. They would beat teams
rare.
The only game I really remember it going crazy score-wise, I mean, you have the Alex Smith 11 team in the playoffs going against the Saints, and that was crazy. That was kind of its own contained thing. But in 2012, the Niners go to Foxborough in December to take on prime Brady, prime Belichick, and I believe that game got into the 40s, at least high 30s. And Kaepernick ends up taking that from them, and that was a big deal that year. But really, I mean, this team, even with Jimmy, like you think about the Saints game where George is being face masked, that was a super high scoring game. This year, they're consistently putting up 30. They're passing the ball like they're almost like a pass first team now. It feels like
they shouldn't be.
Yeah,
I've had this rant.
Gets a little scary, but
I've had this
rant. You mean you don't like them passing to set up the run and not the other way around?
Why the hell is Brock Purdy having 5 straight passes to open the game against Baltimore? What are we doing?
And against the Eagles too.
They did against the Eagles, and I was like, "What are we doing, Kyle? Like, come on, man! Like, what are we doing?
Run the dang football!"
They got it. They got it under control. But, I've had the same questions, and I think that's part of my old school mentality, old school offensive line mentality. Run the football, establish the line of scrimmage, then execute play action, and then start working your games and getting them in and out of the looks that you want them. But Kyle, I think he's legitimately reverse engineering it because of Brock, because of how much talent Brock has at executing the offense and throwing the football, that he's like, you know what, we can reverse engineer this. We can pass, set up the run. We can get them out of the box and try to spread them out and then start hitting them with their gap scheme runs, start pulling and trapping and doing all that different type of stuff. So it can be frustrating when it doesn't work, but I'm slowly coming around to what I think Kyle is trying to do. He's thinking that everyone's playing the run first because of CMC and the alignments that they show. He's like, all right, that's fine. You're giving us the matchups that we want in the passing game, and we have a quarterback who can execute it. So let's go and do it. So
we also have a tight end who can catch the ball down the field too. So if you want to show those tight end looks,
man,
it's like you can throw out of that. It doesn't matter. Not every team has that luxury. It's great to have that big personnel and still, like you said, be able to throw down the field. So they're expecting that run always. So why not be a pass? They're not even a pass first team. I say that kind of jokingly because they're like Brock is at the bottom of attempts when it comes to starters in the NFL. He's just so efficient. He's so efficient.
Exactly.
So, but we don't want to keep you too much longer. We're kind of wrapping up here. I've been here since noon. I get sick of this place. Brad, if the Niners, when they're getting into NFC Championship territory, we'd love to have you back on if you're around for it. It's great. We love having guests here. I think it worked out pretty well. Just we didn't even get to really talk about this team that much. We kind of just played this silly game. So if you'd like to come back, we'd love to have you.
Yes.
Yeah, heck yeah, man. I would love to be back. I appreciate the time. Again, I've been a Niner fan for a long time. So you throw up these two teams in front of me and as you can see, my head just starts spinning of all the different possibilities, which is dangerous for radio because it's time dependent. And I get into my brain about like all these different types of things. But yeah, I would love to come back, man. I had a blast.
Great, cool. Well, I was hoping this worked out. I had no idea. I was like, I'm just going to bring this up and let's see what goes here. So,
it went excellent.
Yeah, it went excellent.
Great job,
so
Nate.
We're super happy to have you again. SF Niners everywhere. I know we kind of lost our big audience on the radio, but Brad, go Niners. Enjoy your week off, and we'll
talk to you soon.
We'll talk to you soon. Yeah, maybe we'll come say hi at the game. Should be at the playoff games. I assume you'll be there, right?
I will be there. I'll be at every single one and try to figure out how to get into that Super Bowl if I can, but it's going to be challenging. I can already tell, but I appreciate the time, guys. This was a lot of fun, and I would definitely be happy to come on later on in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
I forgot to shout out your Bleacher Report hits too. Those are awesome. That's kind of where I was like I was following you on social media and then I'd see you pop up there and I was like, damn, dude, that's awesome. You do that. So
I appreciate that.
Shout out. Hopefully I'm not being annoying, giving too much love here.
Yeah, Brad, shout out all your socials and what you're working on, honestly. Shout everything you're working on, feel free to shout out right now.
I mean, if you just type in the SF Niners on any social platform, you will probably find me and we'll probably be posting some kind of content. So I'm grinding, man. I'd be putting like 14, 16 hours a day just covering the San Francisco 49ers.
Woo!
But I mean, you guys, you get to talk about sports for a living. I get to talk about sports for a living, get to cover my favorite team. So it's a blast. I'm enjoying every minute of it.
It's pretty. I complain, but
hey, man,
it's
nobody's.
I just like to complain.
We all complain, don't we?
Yeah.
Hey, man, nobody's got it better than us, right?
Nobody.
Nobody.
Well,
all right, Brad. Appreciate you, man. Have a great rest of your night. You too. Appreciate you.
Appreciate everyone in the comments, all you guys in Brad's stream and our stream. Man, we love it. We love it. We love to see it.
We're signing off now. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your evening.